My favorite is, oops, I forgot the link in the email. Okay, it's like trying to find an excuse to send a second email in a launch sequence when you're promoting something.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I followed 4 launches of this program, and you've forgotten to send the link, which has allowed you conveniently to send another email that same day with another sales appeal with links. You've done that exact thing every time for 4 launches.
Right.
And what happens now is I straight up don't believe anything you say.
This is the Online Trainer Show. Trainer Show. Trainer Show. This is the Online Trainer Show. We shouldn't have a podcast.
We're talking about ethics today. Ooh. Ethics is a good subject. Hey, anybody watch the show The Good Place? Have you ever seen that?
Yes. Yeah. I just started it.
I just started it too. Like I never watched all the TV that I've watched has really started in the pandemic.
Yeah.
I had maybe 1 or 2 shows that I watched, but all the shows that people used to tell me about, I never watched them. And I don't know why. Just something about the pandemic made me want to watch television. Yep. So The Good Place, I've just been introduced to that. I still haven't watched This Is Us because I don't want to cry. Everybody cries when they watch This Is Us.
Mm-hmm. I got enough drama.
I don't want to do that. Keto's already at her drama limit. She's like, there's a message prompt that comes up in her eyeballs that says drama limit reached. It's like when you push the limit on your cell phone, no data left. She got no drama limit left. I watched The Boys on Amazon Prime, which is very interesting. It's like an anti-superhero show. That's really good. And people told me it was good. As a matter of fact, OTA coaches have encouraged me to watch that show during the 2.5 minutes of banter. Yeah. Ren, so it's like on The Boys. And I'm like, what's that? You don't watch The Boys? You know what's interesting, Jonathan, because you're half asleep. You know what's interesting?
I'm not paying any attention.
That's fine. That's fine. This is how we prefer it. What's interesting is if you make people laugh, they want you to see funny things. And I'm not a comedian or anything like that. I will occasionally say things that are comical. But anytime I interact with a new person that's heard this podcast, they will immediately want to introduce me to something that they think is funny. And I don't know exactly why. And I like funny things. So that's awesome. It's not a bad thing. But I've noticed more and more and more as we've been on this podcast, people will say, oh, have you ever seen blah, blah? And I'm like, no, I've never seen it. Oh, man, I'm surprised by that. I'm like, why? Because you're funny on the podcast. I'm like, well, that's on Jonathan Goodman's money. Like, you know, he pays me to do that on the podcast. It's fictitious. But people have been saying a lot of things to me recently that, you know, here, let me show you a funny thing, Ren. I guess like an even exchange, like
you
like
give me funnies, I give you funnies.
You know?
It's like you did a funny thing?
Yeah. So let me give you some funny back, which I love. Keto, you're against the teal, and did we establish that it was pineapple or peacock? It's peacock.
Yes.
The teal and peacock and gold. The golden peacock. Oh, that'd be a good name for the house. Like if you guys ever had like an official house sign, the golden peacock would be amazing.
I love that.
Consider that. I'm just throwing it out there. Jade and the golden peacock. That would be a good show too. So what's going? She's like, whatever. So what's going on with you anyway, Keto? You're the in the field correspondent. How have you been since we last engaged in this format?
We have been great. And so I actually discovered that it's winter time. And then this is the time when typically in my previous house, that's where the little mice and squirrels and stuff would find their way to the warmth of my house. That has not yet happened in this house, but my hopes remain high that we still might get some visitors. But I'm kind of missing the little jerk. So I bought my cat some little mouse toys because I'm like, we don't have enough rodents in this house. This is a problem. I miss it now. So So now we get fake
him primed for murder.
Yes.
Getting the cat ready for murder, right?
Yeah, he needs to be in his A game,
like
for sure.
Giving a terrorist a shirt with a bomb on it. So I was going to ask you about the vermin situation in the new location. Like,
so far, none.
Okay.
Not yet.
Personally, I'm happy for you. As a member of the podcast, I think we might take a hit here on listenership. because we just don't have any vermin. I went back and listened to the sort of like the first 5 podcasts. Yeah, I went back and listened to like the first 5, and there was a lot of vermin talk.
Yeah.
But then I noticed it dissipated.
Yeah.
We quickly switched to mayor talk. Like once Jonathan got a hold of that story, we sort of ran with that. There's no turning back, you know. And then once the Instagram handle was discovered, it was full on. We only go to you now for mayor talk. Like once that transition happened, we were like, we don't need to talk about rats and mice.
What I want to know is how long ago he registered the Instagram account Jedi Mayor. Because that had to be in demand, and he hasn't been mayor for that long, which tells me that he likely registered the Jedi Mayor Instagram account.
He's been mayor for 10 years.
Oh.
Is there, like, how does that work? Like, are there term limits on mayor? I'm totally unfamiliar with local area, so you can be the mayor forever.
Yeah, in like bigger towns you can.
Yeah, it's 4 years, and he's in his 3rd term right now.
So, okay, all right. Well, wait a minute.
But he can be mayor for 50 years as long as he keeps winning.
Oh, really?
Yeah, exactly. He keeps getting reelected by a landslide.
Yeah. We had a woman there's a town called Mississauga that's like just outside here. It's bigger than Barrie. There was a woman named Mayor Hazel, who was mayor for like, what was it? It was like 50, 60 years.
Really?
She was like, this woman was like in her 90s riding her bike to town hall.
Yeah, it was awesome. Yeah, seriously. Yeah, it was fantastic. She's great. She's still, you know what? She was rock climbing. I saw an article about her yesterday. She was rock climbing in Mississauga in an indoor gym. This 98-year-old woman was indoor rock climbing. So there's a lesson for you.
Holy smokes.
Yeah.
I'm shocked that I didn't know that you could be I wonder, is that like that in the States? Amber, you got any advanced mayor knowledge here that I don't know about? Do you know how long you can be? I got no idea either. I don't know who the mayor is a lot of the time. I'm ashamed to admit that. Like, a good part of the time, I have no idea who the mayor is of the city that I'm in. I don't come in contact with the mayor very much. What do you do?
You don't use it as your personal Tinder? You don't use City Hall as your personal Tinder? No? Oh, okay. Okay, so just me? All right.
I was going to ask, what do you do with the mayor? But then I was frightened that Keto might answer, so I ate that question. We're going to move past it. In the interest of ethics, we're going to shuffle right along. But I have no need to contact the mayor for any reason that I know of, or know who they are, or care what they think. I don't think I've been personally affected by any mayoral decision,
municipal,
whatever, M&Ms. So Jonathan was thrilled today to talk about our topic, ethics, and he's getting warmed up. He's getting prepared. I see him doing the research. He's got a very, very stoic.
No, I'm looking at something.
Shadowy corner.
I'm looking at something else completely different.
He's looking at memes, Ren.
Mayor memes. He's probably emailed Keto 3 mayor memes. So I want to give a shout out before we get started on the podcast. I mean, we're already started, but I got to give a shout out to one of the OTC students. His name is Stephen Whalen. Awesome dude, crushing OTC. I had a call with him today.
Talk about what OTC is.
Well, OTC is online trainer coaching. We're dominating every alphabet letter that follows online trainer here. So our C contribution was online trainer coaching. PTDC, one alphabet at a time is our slogan, our brand slogan here. One letter at a time. So we got like 23 to go. But in any case, so we're having checkpoint calls because we're rounding out the first cohort, which was 12 weeks. You know, we had 100 awesome coaches that came to us to outsource their fitness beta cohort. So we all learned a lot this round, which is awesome. That's what beta is for. But Stephen had a great OTA story as an OTC coach. This guy I think he's originally from Pittsburgh, if I'm not mistaken. He recently moved to Mexico for a better cost of living. I don't know exactly where he moved, Keto, but I had a conversation with him today. So he moved to Mexico because he said, I want to do the OTA thing right. He was actually in Texas. He was in Austin. He was in Austin, Texas. He said, cost of living super high there. I don't know. I'm not familiar with Austin, Texas. He said, but the cost of living is super high. So I moved to Mexico. I found a place with great Wi-Fi, and I do my online coaching in Mexico to reduce my own personal costs, live the way that I want to. He says, so I can incrementally build my business. And I was like, man, that is one of the smartest things. Dude's all in. Like, that's one of the smartest things that I've heard. And I told him Jonathan Goodman would be in Mexico at some point soon. And so he was excited about that. So maybe he'll look you up, Jonathan. Oh, wow. But I thought that what a great OTA story that this guy was able to build a business online, move to somewhere where his, in addition to making more income, he moved somewhere where his dollar went further on top of that so that he can properly build his process and his program and his business organically. I didn't tell him I'd give him a shout out in this episode, but I wanted to do that because I thought that was really smart. He's got a great attitude, and he did well his first 12 weeks of the OTC. He was thankful for the community aspect.
That's pretty cool.
Of it. So OTC is coming back around, Jonathan. You got any OTC-ish things that you want to throw out?
I mean, by the time that this episode is live, we'll be full.
Be too late.
I don't know. You're too late. You missed it. Get into the next cohort.
Yeah, next
time. We already have such a big waiting list. We'll fill this cohort within 2 or 3 hours of the email going out.
Get me in. I forgot to tell you, I want to do OTC. I'm really curious to see how it works. Ren is like, no.
I mean, you can get in if you want. Send me a message afterwards.
Ren, I'm coming to you.
She's not in my cohort. I don't want her in my group.
Nope. We'll give you to the new guy.
Oh man, yeah. I'm gonna be like the worst client ever, worst ever. Because speaking of ethics,
if you're interested in OTC, you can get yourself on the wait list. Just go to theptdc.com/OTC. We will have another cohort in January, but this cohort you're already too late for it, unfortunately.
That's all right. It's what we do. So ethics, Jonathan, we've got to talk about the topic. We can't avoid the topic. Well, we usually can, but we're not going to avoid the topic for the majority of the show. I was about to tell a lie. We commonly avoid the topic for most of the show. But I've got a few things to say here about ethics. So, I'm sure Keto has some things to say. We may be able to even force Amber on the air. And if you got a meeting after this with Alex, maybe he can pop in. He made such a tremendous contribution the last time that he did a guest spot here on the Online Trainer Show. So it could go right, possibly. We never really know at this point what we're going to get anyway. So why should this show be any different? What are your thoughts about ethics, Jonathan? Do you need me to tee this off?
I think Amber needs to tee this one off. I think she's the ethics.
I agree. Yeah. She's definitely nodding yes emphatically.
Yeah. She's so thrilled about being thrown in the ring right now.
Amazingly, her pigmentation has changed.
It changes so quick.
She's bright red right now.
What's the Spanish word for chameleon, Keto? Is it the same word?
Oh, comunión.
Chameleon? Yeah. Is it male or female? Is it El or La?
La comunión.
Oh, that's an appropriate name for Amber. You're about to hear from our 16-year-old genius podcast producer, La Chameleon, who changes to whatever the background color is behind her anytime we ask her to get on the mic.
All right, Amber.
Man, y'all.
I'll jump in with you, Amber. Don't worry.
You chose this topic that I would not be able to contribute.
You chose this topic last week. You said, Amber,
seriously?
make sure
how did that come up? Last week was so long ago. A week in COVID time is like a year and a half.
It's a decade.
It's COVID time and U.S. election time. Like, time does not pass quickly.
Time does not matter. Everything is upside down. Yeah, nothing makes sense.
So, Amber, I'll prompt you, Amber. I'll toss out a question. Let's start with this, Amber. This should be a simple way to get started. When you think of the word ethics in the context of what we do here, coaches, like what are some things that jump out at you? Think backwards from all the crappy shit stuff you've heard.
Yeah, so I think one of the easiest things to step into by accident is sharing client stories with other clients, sharing personal information or pictures or anything like that. Like a lot of times we try to share stories to boost someone else, but it's easy to accidentally share personal information when trying to boost someone else that you might accidentally share something that you shouldn't have,
Right.
as a big possibility, or sharing, like, for example, if you have a client that would benefit from a referral to a therapist and you have a client that's a therapist, like that would be an inappropriate, referral.
Yeah,
so that would be
that's not going to be good.
Area. Those are probably the first things that come to mind that might pop up for online trainers.
Absolutely. So, I was once told that being ethical isn't a quality in and of itself, but it's sort of like the thing that guarantees all the other qualities. I think that's a good definition of ethics. It's sort of a mantra, right? A mission statement of doing things the right way, doing the right thing when nobody's looking and there's zero chance of you getting caught, sort of slips into the category of ethics, right? Being ethical. Keto, now you've been around the block here. You're not new to this. You're true to it. This isn't your first training rodeo. You've probably run into a few situations here that have been, that could be put in the category of unethical, particularly from sort of that coaching, empowering, and respecting the woman in this industry in general. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of slipping and sliding and along the slope there. Amber talked about sharing client information with other clients, sort of crossing the line in a client servicing another client through you. What pops in your mind when you think about ethics in terms of our industry? Anything specifically?
Yeah. So for me, I think the two parts of like having an ethical practice in fitness and nutrition involves, one of them is keeping it client centered, what the client wants, what the client needs, what the client is requesting, and keeping it within our scope of practice. I think if you're maintaining those two things, there's a very high chance that your practice will be ethical, because you are not, trying to upsell them into maybe supplements that they don't need and they don't require, or you're not trying to sell them, services that you're not qualified to be offering in the first place. So in keeping it ethical, it's like keeping with what the client really needs and what you are qualified legally and by your expertise and your studies to provide. So I think that's kind of like a baseline.
I love that you said that, because Jonathan gave me a quote once, and I don't even remember what context we were talking in, but the quote was, and I'm paraphrasing here, Jonathan, and you can remember the exact quote. Please don't hesitate to step in.
I'm scared for whatever you're going to say. I don't know whether you're being serious or whether
I'm being serious. Don't be scared, Jonathan. Don't be scared. But the quote was, it's difficult to get a man to understand something when his income depends on him not understanding it. Yes.
Yeah, that's a Upton St. Clair, long time ago, a book by Upton St. Clair called It Can't Happen Here, which is scarily relevant
right
to what's going on right now. Basically, it's about a political leader who is very similar to the political leader of the United States in a lot of ways. And this was written like in the 20s or 30s or something. You pretty much nailed the line. It is very difficult to get a man to understand something when his job depends on him not understanding it.
Oh, wow.
I believe is the exact quote. It's such a powerful statement, because you have to understand that every piece of information that you take in comes with bias associated with it. And that's not inherently bad, but it's a very important data point to keep in mind. If you are learning from an organization that sells certain education, well, that organization is immediately going to try to convince you that that education is more important than other education.
Right.
If by no other way than simply by just sharing information about that and nothing else. Right? Like we talk about online training a lot. Is that because online training is the best thing that everybody should do? No, absolutely not. But it's our business. So of course we're going to talk about it. I'm not going to talk about how to be a great mobility trainer. Not that I don't think that mobility is important, but like it ain't my thing, because I can touch my toes, but like it hurts, And
that should be the quote card for this episode.
Amber,
like, I can touch
please
my
make
toes,
this the quote card for this week. Oh my God. No other explanation, no context. Just I can touch my toes, but it hurts. Jonathan Goodman. That's all I need to see on the quote card. Please make that happen. Oh my gosh. Thank you for that, Jim, Jonathan. I'm sorry. I apologize for interrupting you, but it was
glad I
good.
could show up in this capacity for you guys. This podcast is made possible by viewers like you, except you're not viewers, you're listeners. Okay, well, I guess a word from our sponsors. If you're a fitness nutrition coach that's looking to master online coaching so that you can help more people, make more money, and have more freedom, then the Online Trainer Academy can help. OTA gives you the framework, knowledge, and support to have predictable success with your online coaching business. From marketing to business development to how to assess and motivate your clients online, it is constantly updated and refreshed to keep up with a dynamic market. Not only that, OTA is proven. In 7 years, we've helped over 30,000 coaches in 87 countries go online. Truth is, we know what works, so you can get right to the success part. And in case you're busy working a full-time job or you're a full-time parent, know that you can go at your own pace. There's no deadlines to complete OTA and you have lifetime access. That said, if you are ready to make a rapid change and finish the course in the next 8 to 12 weeks, you can expect to invest 3 to 5 hours each week on the program. And here's the best part. If you join today, you will make an extra $1,000 a month in 90 days, or I'll give you your money back. So if you're ready to build the fitness business you want and make the money you deserve, go to onlinetrainer.com/academy to enroll today. And I hope to see you in there. Are you still trying to pick your online training software? If so, let me make this easy for you. Go with PT Distinction. It's truly the best, and I'm not just saying that because they're our sponsor. We actually use PT Distinction for our own online fitness business, Online Trainer Coaching, and we're really happy with it. From onboarding to programming to client communication, PT Distinction has everything you need to run your online fitness business smoothly, and it's super simple to use. Now, normally they offer a free 30-day trial, but as a listener of the Online Trainer Show, you get a free 60-day trial, so you can make sure you love them before spending a dime. If you want to deliver first-class service to your clients while reclaiming your time, then visit onlinetrainer.com/PTD to sign up for your free 60-day trial today.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Jonathan.
So the same thing, I mean, when you're learning from somebody else, you look at studies that they share, 100% those studies are going to be cherry-picked.
Right.
Because they need to support their claim. Or in a lot of cases, the studies don't even support their claim. They just assume that nobody's going to read the studies and that having the studies makes it look like their information is more legit. Right. But that's a whole another beast, which is actually really, really funny. I can call out a couple companies that do this considerably on an ongoing basis, where they'll have like 50 to 100 research studies like supporting a claim in an article, and you're like, this legit isn't even on the same topic. It's just right. You know that nobody is ever going to click here, but it makes it look like it's scientific. Yeah, it's pretty funny when you see that. So click around on some of the studies and like look at that, because it's pretty funny when you find it. But it's very important when you're talking about ethics to understand that when you're sharing information, to understand your own biases when you're sharing that information too, and just accept it. And it doesn't mean that you necessarily need to give this like world view. I mean, we certainly don't, but understand who something is for and who something is not for. You know, the contribution that I was going to make to this episode, whenever Len called on me, if Len did call on me, I wasn't sure whether he was going to or not. It's like in Jimmy Kimmel, he's like, and I just want to apologize to Matt Damon. We have unfortunately run out of time again.
Run out of time.
He's sitting there in the green room every single time. He's like,
sorry, Matt. I love that bit, by the way. It's one of my favorite late night bits.
Those types of long-standing bits because they've just been going on so long. They're so brilliant because of just how much that they can do with them.
It's the commitment for me. Just being committed to the bit that long.
Yeah.
It's a payoff for me every time.
It's a payoff. Yeah, it's a payoff. If you don't know what we're talking about, look up Jimmy Kimmel, Matt Damon, and just watch all of them. They're hilarious. It's just Jimmy Kimmel just telling Matt Damon he doesn't have time for him. And then Sarah Silverman, who was Jimmy Kimmel's girlfriend at the time, comes on and sings a song for Jimmy Kimmel about how she's having sex with Matt Damon.
Oh, I remember that song.
And then like a couple weeks later, Jimmy Kimmel records a song about how he's having sex with Ben Affleck for Matt Damon. And it has like the Jimmy Kimmel Ben Affleck song has every major celebrity. I mean, Brad Pitt is delivering a pizza. Don Cheadle is singing. Like everybody is in this thing. I mean, they're in a choir in a studio singing.
Oh, like We Are the World? That's awesome.
They are. Look it up. It is hilarious.
I might look it up now.
And totally relevant to ethics. It's totally relevant to ethics as well.
Everything we do here is on topic. What I was going to talk about, I read a beautiful little book maybe a month ago by an author named Sam Harris, who I know is quite well known. I've never read anything of his before, but it was a book called Lying. And it was about telling lies. And it's a very short book. It's basically an essay. And the entire thesis of the book is that you should never lie ever. You should never tell even white lies. And he makes a very convincing argument. And it's something that Allison and I have really tried to do. It's incredible how many little white lies we tell over the course of a day without even noticing it that are like kind of needless. And the reason why, I'll give you an example. A couple weeks ago on like Friday afternoon, I had a call booked at 4:30 p.m. I didn't remember that I had a call booked. It was with somebody I didn't know that well. I was walking out the door at 3 and my assistant was like, "Oh, I completely forgot. I'm so sorry. Like, you have this call with this person at 4:30. I was just like, just tell him I went home. But it's so easy to, tell him that like something came up or whatever, right? Like the knee-jerk reaction is to lie, to cover up. And really, we spoke the next week and it was fine. And just there's so many little situations like this. He uses an example in the book, like when your girlfriend or your wife asks you if you like the dress they're wearing and you hate the dress. What do you say? You should really read it because these situations are really great. But in the case of somebody who you spend a lot of time with, it's actually really, really powerful in terms of improving the quality of the one's relationship to have conversations beforehand. Like, hey, if you ask me how you look, or if you ask me something about your appearance, do you want me to be honest? Or do you want me to tell you I think you're beautiful, or tell you I like that same button-up shirt that you've been wearing every day for the last 3 weeks, even though I can't stand it and it's going to mysteriously disappear one night? The best part about this is that Allison is actually in the office right now and just stared over at me because she 100%. Look at this. Look at this face. Look at this face. Look at that. The glare.
She needs to talk to you about that merino wool shirt you've been wearing for the past 3 years.
I have 4 of them. It's different. I have 4 of them.
20 less V-necks when you get home.
I just got glared at again. We're done. I had a good run being married.
Okay, so
yeah.
I have a question for you though. Like, if by ethics we mean like a set of moral principles that guide your behavior, what do you think are those moral principles that should guide our businesses in online coaching, for example?
I think honesty is one of them. Because when you are dishonest in any way, even in small ways, it erodes trust. And the erosion of trust is a really damaging thing. I'll give you an example from business. There are a lot of people in this business that straight up lie in their marketing. If you don't buy today, this will never be available again to you. Yeah. You'd sell it to me next week if you could. For this week only, get this thing. Or, that type of marketing. And I have done that kind of stuff in the past because, to be honest, it is easier to do that kind of stuff. But if you do that, it begins to erode trust with anybody who's your audience. And so there's nothing wrong with saying price is going to go up for you next time, or I'm not sure if I'm going to offer this again. If you actually are not sure, right? My favorite is, oops, I forgot the link in the email. Okay, it's like trying to find an excuse to send a second email in a launch sequence when you're promoting something. Like, I followed 4 launches of this program and you've forgotten to send the link, which has allowed you conveniently to send another email that same day with another sales appeal with links. You've done that exact thing every time for 4 launches.
Right.
And what happens now is I straight up don't believe anything you say.
Right.
It's like if you're with a friend. Imagine, Carolina, if you and me are hanging out because we're like best friends or whatever.
Besties forever.
And Ren calls us.
Oh, no.
And I'm with you and I pick up my phone and I'm like, hello? And it's Ren on the other line. Immediately I give you that eye like, oh, shit, I shouldn't have picked up this call. Right?
Accuracy.
Because that's what we do when Ren calls, totally.
And Ren asked me, and you can kind of hear through the phone or you know what's going on. And Ren is asking me what I'm doing later today. Now, you're with me right now. And we've already spoken what I'm doing later today. And I'm doing nothing. I'm sitting with my feet up and I'm watching Netflix or I'm reading a book. But Ren calls me and he asked me what I'm doing later today because he wanted to hang out because he just wants to be friends.
That's all I want.
And I tell him that I have plans. You know, I make up something. You hear this, and now every single time you call me to hang out, who's somebody that I actually want to hang out with.
Right.
Now every time that you call me to hang out, you immediately wonder if I say that I can't do it, whether I'm being deceitful. This is what happens.
Yes.
This is how trust begins to erode when there's little white lies that are seemingly inconsequential. And so, I mean, that's obviously an interpersonal stuff. But at the same time, if you are doing this with your marketing, you know, people might not notice the first time. But I think in terms of ethics, like you talk about building a brand. I mean, that branding versus marketing episode that we did a while back, I think is one of our most powerful. This idea of marketing is asking somebody to go on a date. Branding is the reason they say yes. Like people don't buy because you put an advertisement in front of them. That might be the conversion event.
100%.
Right. People buy because they trust you. People buy because they've
100%.
seen you and they like how you act over time. And then there's a conversion event that perhaps grabs them at the right time, pushes them over the fence or whatever it is. That's why ethics really matter in my eyes.
Jonathan, may I jump in here because you made a point. You said something that sort of resonated with me that I like to share. And this is what I used to say when I was doing insurance, when I was training insurance agents.
You had a girl who had a shirt that you hated too, right?
No, that's not at all what I'm talking about, Jonathan. That's not at all what I'm saying. Gosh. What I'm trying to say here is there's an industry ethics, like how you handle the industry as a member of this industry also leads to the ethics. And what I'm saying is you have to be very, very cautious about what you say about other coaches, regardless of their skill set, regardless of how they treat people, regardless if you know they did something absolutely stupid. I am much more inclined to say, well, you know, coaching is a business that requires a lot of learning. And I think that your previous coach probably did the best that they could based on what they knew at the time and how well they understood your case then, you know, because when you badmouth the industry that you're a part of, it's the same as Jonathan's example of Carol hearing him lie to me about not being busy. True story, by the way. You know, he's influenced Carol now in terms of every other thing that he says. We do that a lot with our industry by how we speak to potential clients about other coaches, regardless of their skill set. We know that there's some trash coaches out there. Like, let's put that, like,
let's be honest.
We're not under any illusion that, you know, you're unnecessarily saying things about coaches because it's the wild, wild west, to use one of Jonathan's terms about the online industry specifically. However, when you badmouth coaches repeatedly in an effort to build your business, what you do is you ruin the impression of the industry as a whole. You fall into the same hole that you're digging, because if you're going around telling people, oh, you can't trust these coaches online, you know, but I'm the right one. Guess what? You end up becoming one of those coaches online in their mind. They're thinking, well, I probably shouldn't trust you either. And that's another level of ethical behavior in this business. And that popped in my head as you were telling that story, Jonathan, because it's something that we definitely used to tell insurance agents. Don't smear the industry that you're in, because you have to operate. You have to sleep in the bed that you pooped in. Don't throw the poop in the bed. You got to sleep there later.
That is a story that is unfortunately way too familiar in my family.
Is this a Calvin story?
No, yes,
there's poop story. Oh God,
there was no poop in the bed.
Story.
I like that you brought. Yeah, not this time, not yet.
Not this time.
I like that you brought this up. The one thing that I would like to add to what you said, Ren, because I think it's great that you said that, I agree with you, is if somebody's had a bad experience with the previous coach, for example, use that as an opportunity to deeply understand why they felt it was a bad experience.
Right.
And understand that and assure them that you won't make that mistake. And then be damn sure you don't make that same mistake, because it might be something that you would do anyway. Right. It might not be an objectively bad thing that coach did. It might have been taken the wrong way. It might have triggered something. We don't really know. But if it is something that you would do anyway that you can't get away from, like, you kind of need to know that before you start.
Absolutely.
That's the only thing that I'd add to that.
And, Keto, that circles back to our previous episode, right, when we were talking about the disgruntled client. Are they really disgruntled, or did they sort of misperceive something that's sort of a normal part of the process? And maybe you can jump in there and explain, oh, well, full admission, that's sort of how my process works too. Here's sort of why I do that similar thing. And you can tell me how you feel about it. But Keto, I like what you said about ethics in terms of the scope. And we only have a few more minutes, but it really falls into the realm of capability, right? I'm not going to tell you I've got a private jet. We go out on a date, I'll fly you to Greece and it's going to be, have an awesome time. And you show up and I'm like, the jet's in the shop this weekend, right? So, where's the line with that thing? Because this happens a lot. And I see you answer a lot of questions, particularly in the Girls Gone Strong group. Shout out to Girls Gone Strong. Well, my client's going through this and I want to do that. And you're sort of like, I've seen you often say that may be something that you want to get them with sort of a pelvic expert, so touch on that again really quickly, because this happens a lot in our industry. I think it goes overlooked and we're a little overzealous to get that money. And get that money, man.
Yes, exactly. And don't let the wanting to reach for the higher earnings cloud the way that you service, the way that you treat your clients. So like, for example, the way that I see it is like, there are situations in which it's totally valid to say, yes, I can totally do this with you, because it's something that it is within your capabilities to learn and to practice with your client, and together you kind of like go through that journey. But you also got to recognize when it's stuff that is like medical conditions, medical diagnosis, anything that is legitimately outside of the scope of practice, there is nothing wrong. And there's actually tons of benefit of referring them to a professional, because then you look fantastic. And even better, when you work hand in hand with the professional that you are now referring them to, you learn so freaking much from having a pelvic floor specialist tell you, with this client, this is how you're going to help her work out, because this is how it's going to benefit. Like, that's knowledge that you're going to carry for the rest of your career. So never be afraid to take it out to experts, and don't be afraid to tackle things that are within our scope and that you can actually learn and practice and get better at in your own career for your clients.
Well said. We've got to sum this thing up. Amber's giving me the face. I know the face she's giving me. It's almost time to wrap this thing up. So let's circle back around the wagon wheel of ethics as we rolled it down the hill of business today. Amber sort of touched on the client ethics, right? Client to client, being careful about what you share with whom, and overstepping client relationships and client boundaries. One thing that I learned at one point in the summertime, I entered into a physician assistant program at Wake Forest in my lovely hometown of Winston-Salem, North Carolina. And one of the things that the doctors told the students was never talk about the patient in the elevator. And that's sort of what Amber is talking about. Like, you never know if you're beside the patient's cousin or mom or dad or auntie or uncle or whoever. So keep the client business to the client business. Don't shift around a lot of information. Keto came through with sort of the ethics of scope, right? respecting your scope, not overstepping your bounds. It's unethical for you to say that you can do something for a client that you're not really skilled in. You're not trained for, prepared for. You're going to hurt the client and you're going to hurt your business, man. That word travels. Let's get this clear. On the internet, the word of your coaching travels swiftly. It's a raging fire across a dry tundra. Like, people hear about you really, really quickly. And then Jonathan came to us with sort of the ethics of business, not telling the little white lies in business, being ethical with what your business is and what it isn't, and how you do business on a consistent basis. On the train's coming, which means my time is up. As the train arrives, it's a signal that the podcast is once again come to an end. It's like my own personal trolley, and I'm your OTA, Mr. Rogers. I'm going to switch from my business shirt to my cardigan sweater, take off my new sneakers, put on my old sneakers, and thank you so much for being my neighbor. Good show, guys. You can find show notes to this episode and pictures of trolleys. Send us your pictures of your best OTA, Mr. Rogers trolley, to Amber at PTDC.
I want to see Ren as Mr. Rogers.
Yeah, me as Mr. Rogers, yes. Trolley in the background, or I can be on the trolley. Either way, Amber Reynolds, feel free to take this straight to Reddit, but please don't spend any of your own hard-earned money again. Onlinetrainer.com/podcast is where you can go. Show notes, et cetera, et cetera. Please leave us a review. We've got far too few reviews. Lithuania, Romania, we're talking to you. Joe Brown 2020. We haven't seen you since we spoke about you, sir. Come back to us. We miss you. And thanks so much for listening to this episode. Once again, solved all your problems this week. Jingle, jingle.
This is the Online Trainer Show. Trainer Show. Trainer Show. This is the Online Trainer Show. We shouldn't have a podcast.